You know how sometimes the best laid plans don't work? It's, how can I put this? When you do something and it just happens to work out, and you did another thing and it didn't happen to work out, but once it's done, it's done. You know, I know it's kind of confusing, but you know, you have to remember, I'm still doing this for the first time. I'm going to show you what this looks like because what I had to do, and it just slotted right in the rear quarter. Pretty happy with it, but I'll show you what I'm going to do over here, but let me show you what's going on there. One of the problems was that I put this thing back together. I wanted to make the extension plate like I was drawing over there on the extra sheet metal. I'm looking at that going, why is it binding up and actually curving out a little bit? Well, when I did the extension, I did the extensions for the wheel wells, it was pushing further out, and I thought, okay, well, I gave it a little bit, maybe like a, 10 millimeters or about a centimeter or about a half an inch, a little under a half an inch, play. I figured, great, this thing will suck in, and it sucked in a lot more than I thought. I took the spot welds off the inner fender well, and it sucked right in, and now I only have a gap of 10 or 15 mil right there. So I just have to have a small strip, to weld onto the bottom of the toolbox tray and to attach this thing. Because the main thing is just trying to get rid of any dust coming or trying to mitigate any dust coming into the cabin, especially when you're running it on a dirt road. Nothing is more miserable when you're in a rally car, either when it's raining on you or when the whole thing is filled with either smoke or dust. It's just miserable. So we're trying to mitigate that as much as we can. And that's why it's going to take so long. Now I'm going to go over here on the right side inner fender well. I'm going to show you what I did to this side to make it fit. Then we're just going to make that. We're going to fold that in and make it all work. Then we can get back on to doing the rear bumper and reset the rear bumper. The external flares are still way overboard. They're not the correct thing or not the correct setup for an A2, but we can suck in the bottom part for the bumper a little bit more. I mean, we're still going to have a lip. Maybe it'll look fine, but it'll look better the more sucked in it is, the more even it is. So we might as well just give it a try. And, there isn't any instructions. So let's get right on to doing this. And, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. You're undoing something, and that's why you tack everything. You don't fully weld it because you're going to have to do stuff like this. It's nothing much I can say. It's one of those things that you're going to have to do. Here's the tack welds I did on the extensions. The extensions I made basically 4.5 inches, which equated with a gap inside here to about 4 inches or 3 3/4, roughly. Nothing. I thought it was going to be good, but nope, it wasn't. Let me cut these tacks off. That way we can put the quarter in. We'll clamp it down to see how little amount of room that we need because we'll have so much less metal that we have to weld onto the bottom of that drawer to actually make a flange for it to fit. That is one safety tip that you guys, if you're going to be building one of these things, learn from me. Don't do the extensions first. Do the extensions last. Yeah, you'll live and learn. Wow. This thing sucks up. There's probably a little bit more, about this much more than on that side where it sucks in. But what I'm looking at also is there's a ridge right here. Let me bring the camera down. I'm going to get a really close-up shot of that. See, here is the ridge on the Coupe GT, or maybe a Quattro too, and this thing is completely flat. So what I want to do is run a saw, an air saw, so I can just basically just go right around here and suck this in even more. The more I suck it in, the better. Sort of like your gut. So let me just go grab an air saw because this thing will suck in also to this point, and that way we can contour this make it as close as possible. Then we're going to refit the bumper and get that all aligned more so. So this is the main reason that we need to get all the bumper, everything aligned today before I end this shot, end this episode. And then we're going to go on to doing other stuff, I think. So let's get an air saw, and we're going to ship that right down. Wow, it's fitting really good. Right there, no problem. Oh, now I'm going to put the bumper, I want to set the bumper back down to see exactly if it is actually square and see what it looks like now. Here's the bumper, it's on. It's relatively straight, but we still need to bring it down a little bit because we need to start cutting off excess metal underneath here. And if you lift this up to it be exactly perfect, it still only hangs down about maybe a centimeter, half an inch, something like that. You know, this is the point where we have to start cutting off all the excess panels, and we need to push this bar in even further. Now that the toolbox trays are actually welded onto that, I can use the hammer and actually, instead of having it flop back and forth when you use the ball peen, it'll actually push the metal in, and it'll give us more of a recess. Then we got to make the plates here and start sealing up this entire area going forward again, and that way I can actually, I'll clean this bar with a wire wheel, put in the other bars, or at least tack them in to see where it's going to go. That'll be set. Then we got to move to something else, which to make this thing roll. I think you're going to like that part, but we're going to finish up the episode just by clearing this out and actually making sure the bumper is exact. So let me get right on to doing that. Well, what we have to do now is we have to cut out or start trimming out all the back braces, because we're going to be basically replacing these rear braces right here with tubing. Either be that, or I have some other roll cage tubing right here. Don't really know, but we got to get this out. We got to get those out. I'm not take it all out. I just want to take out this section right here, and if I have to, I can fold it in and box this in to hold this bar right here in as part of the mount. I'm not really sure, but I might as well start cutting, because I have to do something. Instead of being a bump on a log. Here is the fuel tank again. Put that right there. And the challenges that we possess, or what we're going to run into. We've already explained the first thing is we need to get fuel into it, so we have to have it as low as we can. Another thing is we have to have it sitting above or sitting on some type of cushioned frame. That's the best I can put it. It can't move around. The reason why is this is all made of metal. It's made out of steel. And if we have steel rubbing against aluminum, who wins? Steel wins. We can't have that. So we need to have a frame actually suspend it above where it's going to contact any type of steel, so it'll wear a hole in it. You don't want that. Then I was looking around trying to figure out, okay, well, what kind of, a typical frame, just angle iron, that's all it is. Looked around, I was wondering if it was the same, if I used the brackets that I had for mounting this, that are perforated for the, shelving, they are not stiff enough. At least I don't think in this, because I need to cut them down relatively small. And I need something that I can actually affix to or have I have some rubber that I'm going to slice up and put on the rails to make it fit. So, what am I thinking of? Well, I went back to our handy dandy seat frame from a van again. Hey, we're using German parts in this thing, To me, this is a really stiff section because it's been curved over. I got to get rid of, the catchers. I mean the nutserts, basically what I call them, and cut off. And I don't need very much. Let me take a look. What do I need? 8, 10 inches maybe. you know, just enough so I can put it there and slide it in. That's pretty much it. So let me cut this up and we can basically fit the tank, because we know it's all the way to the wall. We'll fit the tank, and then we can fit the top strut tie bar. Then we can go backwards and make sure the bars don't hit anything that goes in for the tank. It's crazy, isn't it? All right, well, let's get going. Can use them for something later on. Look like 8 by 125 thread to me. Now, let's cut a couple of straight sections, about 10 inches each, you know, and we'll make it all work. Well, here we have the mounts. Figure out where to put them. And I'm using it this way. I'm doing it this way because I want the rubber to actually fit into the groove. That's kind of what my whole deal is. Next thing we need to do is we need to weld in the brackets for the front part. We can set the back part, you know, after everything is done, but we need to, you know, set these brackets right here. I'm going to use part of the seat frame. On this side, it's actually, you can see that right here. I'm going to cut that down, so that should fit in right here, right necessary. So I'll just cut the bottom off, and that'll be that now. I'll just use this section to curve up and right in. Sounds easy. Well, let's get this done. Tack them up right there, and that way we can get it, you know, somewhat level. Then we can cut the rubber and put the rubber in there and set the fuel cell. Fuel tank. Depending on how it sits is depending on how much I'm going to cut it. Let's get the other one cut. A couple of shims. I used one of the bars just to hold it up. It's pretty much equidistant from there. If you take a look over here, and the shim is on the side to give it clearance. And hopefully we're going to give it one good tack. We'll fill the rest in with weld, but we'll just do that. All right, let's weld it. We have the tank in. We have 2 more things to do before we end this episode. Then more grinding and cutting. Oh. That's the problem. Just the grinding is just terrible. That's the only thing you're going to hate. Whoever builds one of these things, you're going to hate it. You know, but whatever. I started with 2 rusty hunks of shit, and that's what I'm basically making, is a rusty hunk of shit. So, but besides that point, fuel tank pretty much in position. Might have to massage it here and there, but we won't really know until we're fully done. What we got to do now is I cut the old bar off. Which the back of the cage actually is tied to, as you can see. What I have here, and it's going to be too small, this is the bar that I had from another cage. I believe it was a Mazda. And what I got to do now is I want to put this right here for this cage to tie into. We got to miss the strut top right here, and we got to put it right into the side. We're not going to use a side plate on here because we have enough dispersion of metal, because we're going to be welding it from here all the way to here, all the way around. That's more than enough dispersion of metal. You know, because of what it's supposed to do. It's, you know, it's not supposed to go through or punch through metal, but you have so much here, and plus, it's not really a rally car anyway. It's a fake. So let me just start cutting up this bar. We're going to get that done. One more thing down there, and I think we're good. So let me just zip onto it. It's in the German way, good and tight. Actually, I'm not going to weld it. I'm not even going to tack it. It's in there. It's not going anywhere. I will weld it later because I just want to zip right on to getting the last of the bars cut for the bumper, for that big round bar in the bumper, and that'll be it for this episode. I just want them. I just want that stuff there, and we can do this. I'll leave this free just because I want to adjust it just in case. We'll see what happens, and let's get on to those bars. I got to cut those plates off of that, or trim the plates on there, and put the center bars in, or grind out the stuff that I need to grind out. But I need to have the fuel tank in there just in case. Just in case. Let me just start doing that, and we'll finish up with this episode, so you can go have another beer or a cup of coffee. You know, good job. This is what we got. This is some of the old Subaru tubing. This is the old Audi tubing. And I had to try and figure out how I was going to make it, you know, if you did have an impact in the back, how to disperse it. Because I was thinking about going up here, nothing was working. Then this came to mind to me. This thing is long enough to where if I take this plate right here, I'm going to cut it off, and then I'm going to notch the tubing. And this is going to be the end of the tubing. This is going to be the angle right there. I'm going to weld this in, take this plate, put it on this side, weld that and box it in. That's going to be absolutely strong. It should really protect the fuel cell and the fuel pumps. So what I want to do is, let's cut that off. I'll pull the bumper off, cut that off, notch it, and we're going to set the thing down and try and, you know, get to the point where it's going to be put together really nice. Then I'll pull it out and clean it up, but I don't think you want to see that. And then weld it in, box it in, but I'll probably go over that in the next episode. But let me just do this and just show you what I'm actually thinking of, well, what I'm actually doing. So. Somewhat. Gotta grind it. Gotta grind it more, but whatever. I got the bar cut. I'm trying to keep this bar as close to the wheel well as possible, not to here, because I want to box it in here, and I want to keep it as far over to this side as I can. So I have to cut that side next, but there's, as you can see, there's a big gap right here. I think I'm just going to make a gusset to come down just to make it fit. I don't want to cut more into the pipe. Into the tubing. That's the only thing, because I need this to go this way. Same thing over there. I need it to stay as far over to the side as possible. So let me cut that flange off and give it a quick zip with the cutter, and I can figure out where everything's going to go. Because we have to make it somewhat equal, but I want to keep it as far away from everything as possible. Here we are at the point, the last part of the video. The main fabrication work is, the biggest thing is just getting it all done. That's the whole thing. Well, now I'm going to tack right here. The only thing I'm going to do is attack here is to make myself a ground. That's it. Then I can tack in all the plates. I got a plate here. I got this bar, and I got the round bar. As you can see, I got a big gap right here. Well, this bar, what's it really doing? It's just mainly for crash protection, not for occupant safety. It's more to reduce the amount of ingress into the trunk, and that even then, it's, you know, comparatively to the sheet metal that's originally here, this is a heck of a lot stronger. And we're not going to use, you know, we're going to mainly count on this, but we're also going to use this. This is the piece that I chopped out. I'm going to put it right here so it actually looks like I meant to do it. Because I can't, you know, I can go in further into the bar, but I don't want to. The thing is, I have to get that side over there, which you can't see, for the battery. I need to get as much room as I can over there on that side. And this side, I'm going to put the fuel pumps, everything underneath here, and have a plate, and then have the spare tire fitted. So let me get the welder. I'm going to tack that just briefly. And then I am going to tack everything in here, make sure it's okay, and then weld, I'm going to weld a good portion of it, you know. As in, I want to weld it to the chassis where it's not going to go anywhere. And when I come back around and start making all the plates for filling all the holes and filling the, filling the gaps here, then I'll weld everything. And I'm almost thinking about, I've been sitting there thinking, it's like, oh, maybe I'll send the car out and get it completely sandblasted. I'm not sure yet, but we'll get to that point when we get to that point. But let's finish up this episode by tacking this in. We'll take the clamps off because I'm just using some worm drive or Jubilee clamps just to hold everything together. And I'll tack it in to the point where it's not going to go anywhere. That's my big thing. So let me do that. Okay, I just did the top welds to show you what it's going to look like. Not bad, but I mean, it almost kind of looks like it's supposed to be there. I didn't weld up in here. I didn't weld the plate to the chassis. I just welded it with one tack. Just so, what if I need to move it up and down? There we go. There's no problem. Over here, as you can see, we have one tack there. I welded this. Don't want to touch it. It's rather hot. And a couple of tacks here just to get the bar stationary. When I decide to do the rest of the welding, I will. So let's wrap it up. We're at the end of this episode. This was an episode that I was dreading. I didn't want to do the rear section of this car. I don't want to do the rear section of the Sport Quattro. I mean, for some reason, there's so much rust on these subframes and stuff like that. It's just, I got to bring myself to do it because I want to complete the job. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we got pretty much all the major work done. Not the welding portion of, fully seam welding, doing all the welding. And I didn't do the plates for the side or the rear tray, to cover up the suspension pieces, because you have to have a sealed bulkhead going into the compartment where you have the fuel cell, or the fuel tank, whichever one you want to call it. Oh, pretty much, I'm pretty happy with what it is, I mean, I had no clue on how I was going to do it. So all I did was look at it, and I walked out in the junk pile and said, oh, okay, what's this hillbilly have to, to build it? And that's what I did. Now, I want to say one thing. Whenever you see a kid fix up his car and do all this small stuff, like trying to put stereos and trying to put exhaust, and he fails. And the thing just makes it worse, and it falls apart. You know what? Congratulate the kid. You got to do that, because you know what? He tried, and that's all I'm doing is I'm trying. If I'm going to fail, yeah, I failed. It's not like I haven't failed before. I failed numerous times, but just that kid who goes out there and does that, praise him. Don't belittle him. The kid that goes out there with his daddy's trust fund, who goes out and spends all that money for someone else to do to his car, yeah, I can say you can belittle that guy, just saying. So, hey, listen, this is just shots of encouragement because, everything's a learning process. You can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. The only thing is, I'm just a hillbilly out here in the middle of nowhere recycling parts. And depending on your situation, I think you can do whatever you want because you can recycle too. And if you want yourself a cool car, bike, whatever, just look around and use your imagination. That's lost today, or a lot of people are losing it, Everybody wants this, that. Yeah, okay. But use your imagination. So thank you very much. I'm nothing special. Just a recycling hillbilly. That's it. So I'll finish up my coffee and clean up the shop. Thank you. Have a good day.